Roan, 29, CNC operator at a structural steel shop. 12-hour shifts, 4 on, 3 off, night rotation every other month. My back started making noises when I was 26, and it has never gone quiet since. Not complaining about the job. It pays well, the guys are decent, and for 11 of those 12 hours, nobody needs anything from me except the right tolerance. At the time of this story, I'd been living with my girlfriend a bit over a year. Real estate agent, good at it, genuinely good. She can walk a nervous couple through a house they can't afford and have them thanking her on the driveway. We met through her cousin's boyfriend at a barbecue, which is the least interesting origin story available, and dated 8 months before moving in. Her whole life runs on systems. Budget spreadsheet with color-coded tabs. Vacation spreadsheet. A shared calendar that reminds me about her aunt's birthday 2 weeks out, and then again the day before. Never fought any of it, because most of it worked. My life before her was a laundry basket that functioned as a dresser. So when she organized things, fine, good, thank you. The trouble started slow, and I didn't clock it as trouble. The 4 months before the chart. Somewhere in there she started keeping a mental ledger out loud. Not screaming, nothing dramatic. Just a running commentary about who notices what. She'd walk past the bin and say nothing. Wait 2 days, then bring it up as evidence. I'd empty it, and she'd say, "She shouldn't have to be the only one who sees it. Told her to just tell me, and she said that telling me is the labor." Heard that phrase a lot, the labor. Tried to get ahead of it. Booked a weekend away, cabin place 2 hours north, paid for the whole thing. Got asked why I hadn't checked whether her cousin's engagement thing was that weekend. It wasn't that weekend. It was 3 weeks later. But the point wasn't the date. The point was that I'd done it wrong by doing it alone. After enough of that, you stop initiating. And then the not initiating becomes the new evidence. And the evidence becomes a laminated sheet of paper on a fridge. The chart. Come home off a day shift, still in work boots, that cut steel smell in my sleeves that never washes out completely. Something new on the fridge, laminated. Corner magnets, printed in color, header in bold caps. Household balance system. Left column, chores. Dishes 2 points. Laundry, wash, and fold, 3. Trash 1. Cooking dinner, 4. Washing the car, 3. Paying the bills online, 2. Vacuuming, 3. Groceries, including putting them away, 4. Right column, and she used the word rewards printed on the sheet. Hug, 5. Compliment, 5. 10-minute shoulder rub, 15. Movie night, both phones in the drawer, 20. Date night out, 25. And at the bottom, in a slightly bigger font, quality time, 30. Stood there with a sandwich in my hand, reading a price list for my own girlfriend. She came into the kitchen already smiling, waiting on the reaction like it was a birthday present. Told me straight off that it wasn't about control, said it was about fairness. Said she was tired of being the only adult in the apartment who notices when something needs doing. Asked whose idea it was, a woman from her office. Twice divorced, 43, hands out relationship advice like flyers outside a gym. The kind of person who screenshots posts from a group chat and sends them at 11 at night with 3 exclamation points. And I didn't argue. Arguing with my girlfriend is a 2-hour project, and 90 minutes of it is her explaining why I misunderstood the first 30. Had a 6 a.m. start the next day. Said fine. She blinked. She'd loaded up for a fight, I handed her nothing, and for about 1 second that landed wrong with her. Didn't understand why at the time. Understood later. The rules. They arrived that same night over reheated pasta. She keeps score. Marker on the laminate, check marks in the boxes, her handwriting only. Sunday night the board wipes and everything resets. Small print at the bottom. Unused points do not carry over. Read that line twice. She was watching me, read it waiting for me to negotiate, and I asked whether the trash counts on days the bin isn't full. It does not. She added that if I did something badly, it could be scored at half. Asked who judges. Obviously her. Said, okay. She said I was being weird about it. Told her I was being agreeable about it, and she said that's what she meant. First night, I did the dishes. Whole sink, plus the pan that had been soaking since the day before, plus wiped the counter, which wasn't on the chart. She stood in the doorway the entire time with her arms folded, watching. Put my check mark in the box, 2 points, went to brush my teeth. Heard her in the hall behind me. Asked if there was anything I wanted. Told her no. Thanks, good night. Next morning, she was already awake when my alarm went off, which had never once happened in 14 months. Week 1. There was no plan, and that's the part nobody believes when I tell it. No strategy, no revenge idea, nothing clever. I just did the chores, all of them, better than I'd ever done them in my life. Vacuumed under the couch, an area I had previously treated as a foreign country with hostile customs. Washed her car, then mine. Cooked 4 nights out of 7, real food, not eggs at 10. PM bills paid the day they landed. Laundry folded and put away, instead of living in the basket for 3 days like a hostage. Groceries done on my day off, put away, receipt on the counter. Every night she'd come home, and there'd be another check mark on the fridge, and I'd be on the couch reading about tooling. By Wednesday, she'd started narrating the total. "You're at 19, she'd say, in the same voice you'd use for a weather report. Said, "Huh," and kept reading. Friday, she wrote the number on the whiteboard we use for grocery lists, underlined it twice, bought milk and ignored it. Sunday came, and I had 41 points. Full board, every box, nothing missed. Half a bonus I didn't ask for on the car because I did both. She sat down at the table with the marker like a bank teller and said, "All right, big spender." Told her to wipe it. She laughed. Waited for the punchline, didn't get one, laughed again in a different way. Then wiped the board and made a joke about me saving up for something big. Went to bed. Somewhere in the middle of that week, standing in the shower with the water turned up too hot, it clicked. If a hug costs 5 points, it isn't a hug. That's the entire thought. That's all of it. Didn't build a philosophy out of it, didn't write anything down, didn't have a conversation with myself in the mirror. I just wasn't going to start paying for something that had been free my whole adult life. Rinsed off and went to sleep. Week 2. Same again. Board full by Saturday, 40-something points, and I didn't touch one of them. The jokes came first. Asked whether I had a girlfriend somewhere on a free plan. Laughed at her own line, and I said the dishwasher needed salt. Then the reminders got closer together. She'd mentioned my balance in passing the way a phone company tells you about unused data. At dinner, in the car, once while I was on the toilet through the door, she left the marker on the counter where I couldn't miss it. Thursday, she put a sticky note on the bathroom mirror with the number and a smiley face. Peeled it off, stuck it on the fridge next to the chart, and shaved. Friday, she asked directly what I was saving up for. Told her nothing. She said, "Everyone's saving for something." Said, "Okay." She went quiet for the rest of the night, which was the first time the silence showed up, though back then it was still an accident. Week 3, the promotions. And I use that word on purpose because that's what they were. New sticky note on the board, double points on Tuesdays, then a multiplier, 1.5 times, for anything done without being asked. Then a brand new chore appeared out of nowhere, cleaning the shower grout, 6 points. Which was flattering, honestly, because she'd rated it higher than cooking a full dinner. Did it with a toothbrush and one of those spray cans from the hardware place. Grout came out white, and I was a little proud of it, I'll admit that. Balance hit 70 by Saturday. Spent 0. She stood in front of the fridge that night for a long time, doing arithmetic she didn't like the answer to. Then the sales started. Took the marker and crossed out her own numbers on the reward side, wrote new ones over the top. Shoulder rub dropped from 15 to 8. Movie night from 20 to 12. The 30.1 at the bottom went to 20. A week after that, it went to 15. The old prices were still readable through the marker. That's the detail that stuck with me. A laminated sheet with the original numbers showing underneath, like the window of a shop that's closing down. Said nothing about it. Put a check mark in the laundry box and went to work. At some point, she added a reward that wasn't there before. A full weekend of her undivided attention, no phone, no showings, 40 points. Saw it, didn't mention it, hit 40 points on the Wednesday and let the week reset over it. The dinner. Somewhere in week 2, she had 2 friends over, and the chart came up before the food did. They stood in front of the fridge with wine and read it like a menu. One of them thought it was hilarious and said her husband would be at -40. The other one went quiet in a way I noticed, and my girlfriend did not. Then the questions started coming at me. Asked how I felt about it. Said it's fine. Asked whether I found it demeaning. Said no. The quiet one asked whether I'd cashed anything in yet. My girlfriend answered for me, said I was being strategic about it, saving up, and laughed. The quiet one looked at the chart again and asked what happens on Sunday. Told her it resets. She said, "So it's use it or lose it." My girlfriend said, "That's the point. It keeps it active." The quiet one said, "Huh," and asked where the bathroom was. Later, in the kitchen, she was rinsing a glass and said her ex used to keep a list of everything he did for her and read it out during arguments. Said it made her never want to accept anything from him again. Then she said, "Anyway," and went back through. My girlfriend told me afterwards that her friend has issues. The crew. Word got around at the shop, because I told one guy, and one guy is the whole shop. For about a week I was the chart guy. Somebody wrote a fake board on the whiteboard in the break room. Changing a tool insert, 4 points. Not talking about the game, 12 points. The one that got the biggest laugh was listening to the foreman's boat story, 90 points. Took it fine, laughed with them, it was funny. The foreman heard about it and asked me straight out one afternoon whether I was all right. Said, "Yeah, he's been divorced twice and he's the last man alive who should be giving advice. And he knew it, so he didn't. Said if I ever needed a couple of days, he'd move me on the rota. Ended up using that later, but not for the reason he assumed. One of the older guys stopped me by the lockers and said something I keep coming back to. Said the ones who count what they give you are always the ones who want you counting too. Then he asked to borrow a socket set. The Sunday ritual. The resets turned into a thing between us, and neither of us ever named it. Every Sunday around 9, she'd get the marker, sit at the table, and go through the boxes out loud. Dishes, 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 laundry, car, bills. Reading my week back to me like a receipt at a till. Then she'd get to the total and pause. The pause got longer every week. Second Sunday, it was half a second. By the fourth, it was long enough that I'd started counting it. Then she'd wipe the board with a bit of kitchen roll and say something light. "See you next week," or "clean slate." One Sunday she pressed too hard and took the printed line off with the marker, so the bottom of the sheet was just a smear. She looked at the smear, said the laminator at her office is rubbish, and threw the kitchen roll in the bin. Never wiped it in front of me again after that. Started doing it in the mornings before work while I was still asleep. I'd come out for coffee and the board would be blank. The baby shower. Her sister had a thing at a rented hall, about 24 people, mostly her side. Got put on drinks duty, which suited me. Somebody's husband stood next to me by the cool box for 40 minutes, and we talked about nothing, which was the best part of my month. Overheard the chart come up twice. First time it was one of her cousins asking whether it was working, and my girlfriend saying it's been transformative, which is a word she uses when she's selling. Second time was worse. A woman I'd met once said, loudly, that she'd kill for a man who does the laundry without being asked, and asked what on earth my girlfriend was complaining about. The table laughed. She laughed too, a beat late. On the drive home, she didn't speak until we were in the parking garage. Then she said, "They don't get it." Agreed with her because they didn't. She looked over like she was checking whether I meant it as agreement or something else. Said, "We should go out." And I said, "Sure." When? She said whenever, and neither of us brought it up again. The one question. My shift partner is a guy I've worked next to for 3 years. Married 11, 2 kids, drinks black coffee out of a dented thermos he already had when I started. Says maybe 4 sentences a day, and 3 of them are about tolerances. Told him about the chart on a break, told it as a joke, because out loud that's exactly what it sounds like. He didn't laugh, and he didn't give advice. Chewed on it a while, screwed the lid back on the thermos, and asked one thing. Is there a column on there where she does something? Second time in a month I've had a bad realization while holding food. There wasn't. Chores were mine, rewards were her. She wasn't in the system at all. She was the register. Didn't say any of that to him. Said, "Huh," and we went back in and ran parts until midnight. Drove home and read the chart top to bottom, like a work order. Every box on the left had my handwriting in it, 4 weeks deep. Right side untouched. Put a check mark in the trash box because it was Sunday and the bin was full, and went to bed. Week 4 or around there. Couldn't tell you the exact day this part started. I know it was after the baby shower and before my rota flipped to nights, so somewhere in that stretch. She stopped waiting for me to spend. Came into the living room while I had a machining video on with the sound off, sat on the arm of the couch and made a direct offer. No points free, just this once. Told her not to. She asked why not. Said, Because you'll count it later. She said she wouldn't count it. Said, okay, still no. She went into the bedroom and shut the door, and I could hear the phone call through it. Not the words, just the shape. Rising, dropping, that specific rhythm people get when someone on speaker is agreeing with everything they say. The advice she came out with was to go cold. Learn that later, but honestly, it was guessable from the tone. Stop chasing him, let him feel the absence, he'll come around. 3 days of silence in that apartment. And I want to be honest about this part, because it doesn't make me look good. Those 3 days were the best I'd had in months. Slept the whole night through twice. Sanded and repainted the cabinet door that had been chipped since the day we moved in. Fixed the kitchen tap, which had been dripping so long, I'd stopped registering the sound. Watched an entire film in one sitting, with nobody stopping it to ask whether the leads had chemistry. The silence was meant as a punishment, and it worked out as a holiday. Kept doing the chores through all 3 days, obviously. Board stayed full. Day 4, she broke. Came into the kitchen while I was on the dishes, which I want to underline. I was still doing the dishes. And asked what I was doing. Told her, dishes. She said, that's not what I meant. I know. And then it came out all at once, loud, no runway. Said I was punishing her. Said this was passive-aggressive. Said withholding is a control tactic. Which was an interesting thing to hear on day 4 of hers. Pointed at the fridge. Every box on the left had a check mark in it. Said, I'm doing everything you asked, in the amounts you set, on the schedule you wrote, and I'm doing it well. She had no answer because there wasn't one available. That chart made me unimpeachable. She'd built it, priced it, laminated it, and then walked into it. The argument ended with her saying I was being deliberately obtuse and going to bed at 9. The part she couldn't undo. Found this out by accident, though found is generous. She showed me herself, back when it was still fun. First week the chart went up, she photographed it and posted it. Caption about balance, about how her partner was fully on board. 200 and something saves, her friends in the replies calling her a genius. One of them asked for the template and got it. A woman from her old office apparently printed it that same week. So a month later, when people started asking how the system was going, she had exactly one honest answer available. Great, he does everything, which was true, and that was the trap. Complaining meant admitting the system had worked, and she hated the result. She tried a soft version of it once with a friend on the phone, and I heard her give up halfway through the sentence. Her mother called on a Sunday, and I got half of it from the hallway. The half I heard was my girlfriend trying to explain the problem, and her mother refusing to locate it. At one point, the old woman said something like, he washes the dishes. What exactly do you want me to say? Phone went face down on the counter after that. She sat at the table for a while, then asked me if I thought her mother had ever been happy. Told her I didn't know her mother well enough to answer that. She said, correct, and went to bed. That was one of the only honest things either of us said that month. The woman from her office kept feeding her. The advice escalated the way advice does when the first round doesn't work. Go cold, then go warm, then make him jealous, then set a deadline. The jealousy one was almost funny. Started mentioning a colleague, some guy who'd complimented her presentation. Said his name enough times in 3 days that I asked whether he'd be at the office party. She said, probably, said, cool, and asked what she wanted for dinner. It died right there. The deadline one never got said out loud, but I could see it forming. She started using the phrase, where is this going, which is a strange thing to hear from someone you already live with. The guy downstairs stopped me in the stairwell around then. Older, retired, walks a dog that hates everyone, including him. Said he'd noticed the tap wasn't dripping anymore and asked if I'd done it myself. Told him, yeah. He said his wife used to leave him lists. Then he said, past tense, and kept walking down with the dog. Didn't ask. Ran into a guy at the auto parts counter the same week, buying wipers. And he asked how the truck was holding up. Said fine. Whole conversation was 30 seconds, and it was the most relaxed I'd felt talking to another person in a fortnight. Which tells you something about the state of the apartment at that point. The bargaining. After the cold spell, she switched tactics and started framing it as a favor to her. Said it would mean a lot if I'd just take something off the board. Told her that isn't how a reward works. She said it is. If she says it is. One evening, she offered to cash out on my behalf. Said she'd take 20 off my balance and just do it, and I could sit there. Said, no thanks. She asked whether I was even attracted to her anymore, which was the first time that came up. And it was a real question, not a dig. Told her the truth, which is that the chart made it impossible to answer honestly either way. If I said yes, the next line was going to be, then come and spend it. If I said no, it becomes a different fight entirely. She said that's a non-answer, and she was right. Then came the counseling suggestion. She found somebody, booked a consultation, told me about it after the fact, asked whether the chart would be coming with us. She said that was a childish thing to say. Said, I'll go if the chart comes down first. She said the chart isn't the issue, I am. We didn't go. The deposit was non-refundable, and she brought that up twice over the following fortnight. The grocery fight. The worst argument of the whole thing was about eggs. Came back from the shop with everything on the list except the specific brand of eggs she wanted, because they were out. Bought the other ones. She said this is exactly what she means, that I do the task and not the thinking. Told her the shop was out. She said I could have gone to the other shop. Said the other shop is 20 minutes the wrong way, and I'd been on my feet since 6. And she said, and there it is. Meaning the counting, meaning me listing what I'd done, which I had, so fine. But she'd been counting on a laminated sheet for a month. Said that. She said that's different because hers is a system, and mine is resentment. Put the eggs in the fridge, marked 4 points in the grocery box, and went to bed at 8. She stayed up watching something with the volume low. Heard her go into the kitchen twice. The second time, I heard the marker cap. The flip. This is the part I still think about, and it happened maybe a week after the jealousy attempt. Come off shift, walk in, and the apartment is spotless. Not normal spotless. Baseboards, dishes done, 2 loads of laundry folded on the bed in stacks, dinner in the oven, bin emptied and a new bag in it, carpet with the vacuum lines still in it. My work boots had been moved to the mat and lined up. And on the kitchen table there's a sheet of notebook paper. Her handwriting, her own tally, chore by chore, with the point values copied off the fridge. 18 points. Sat down, and she slid it across the table like an invoice. Asked what I thought. Told her the place looks good. She tapped the paper and said, so, I'd like to spend these. And I told her I don't have a rewards column. The exact words were, spend them on what? She opened her mouth and then didn't have anything to put in it. Because there wasn't anything. The entire system ran on one idea. Affection is the currency and chores are how you earn it. She'd written that down and laminated it. So when the guy stops cashing out, the woman holding the register finds out she was never in the economy. She was the till. 18 points on a piece of notebook paper. She folded it in half, then in half again, and left it on the table. It was still there 2 days later. Threw it out myself when I wiped the table down, which was worth 2 points. The chart comes down. She tore it off the fridge that night. Magnets went across the floor, one of them under the stove where I assume it still is. Laminate is harder to rip than it looks, so it took her a couple of goes, folding and working at the crease. Into the bin she'd emptied 4 hours earlier. Next day I printed a new one at work. Shop has a laminator for job cards. Guy in the office ran it for me and asked if it was for a birthday. Said sort of. Came home and stuck it up with the magnets I could find, which was 3 of the 4. She stood in the kitchen doorway with her coat still on and asked what I was doing. Said, it's easier for me this way, I don't forget anything, which was true, incidentally. As a chore system, that chart is genuinely good. It's the second column that ruins it. She looked at it for a long time without taking her coat off. The thing had switched sides. She'd made it, and now it was mine, and it was hanging in her kitchen, keeping score of a game she couldn't win anymore. After that night, she stopped touching it. The marker stayed where I left it. The toxicity weeks. At some point, she found a framework for what was going on, and it wasn't a flattering one for me. Started with the word withholding, then emotional unavailability, then the main event. Told me that this is what male toxicity looks like, that men are trained to punish women with distance because nobody ever taught them to say they need something. She'd read something, or her coworker had sent her something, or both. There were phrases in there that didn't sound like her, and you can always hear when a person is quoting. Said my silence was a form of aggression. Said refusing affection was me performing self-sufficiency to make her feel small. Said that a man who can't accept care is a man who was taught that needing it makes him weak, and that I should look at where I learned that. Asked her one question. If I'd cashed out all 41 points that first Sunday, would we be having this conversation? She said that's different. Asked how. She said, because that would have been healthy, so to lay it out. Me using her system exactly as designed, healthy. Me using her system exactly as designed, minus the part where I come to her and ask, toxic masculinity. Told her I couldn't see the difference. She said, that's exactly the problem. This went on about 2 weeks and every version of it arrived at the same station. A man who doesn't ask for anything is dangerous. And fine, maybe there's something in that. But nobody in that apartment had a problem with me not asking back when the asking was free. Said that out loud once, on a Sunday, over nothing. It went badly. She cried, and I don't think it was a tactic. She was upset in a real way, and she could not name the thing she'd lost, because naming it meant saying the quiet part out loud. Quiet part being that the chart was never about the dishes. She wanted leverage, and she got a very clean, very well-maintained apartment instead. The negotiation. She came at it one more time, calm, sitting down, folder energy like a listing meeting. Proposed we scrap the system and go back to how things were before. Asked her how things were before. She started 3 separate sentences and finished none of them. Said, normal. Told her, I don't remember normal, I remember being told I don't notice things. She said that was one conversation. It was not one conversation. The chart didn't come from nowhere. It came out of 4 months of being informed I was a passenger in my own apartment. Brought up the cabin weekend. She said that was a completely different thing and I was keeping score. Told her I learned it here. She went quiet, and then she said the sentence that ended the whole discussion for me. Said, I just wanted you to want it enough to ask. Told her I did want it, right up until it had a price on it. She said everything has a price. Said, okay. Said, then take the second column off the chart and see what's left. She asked, what would be left? Chores. She went to bed, and I sat in the kitchen with the light off for a while, then washed the 2 mugs in the sink because they were there. The last attempt. A few days before I found the apartment, she tried one more thing, and it was the closest she ever got. Came home early, no makeup, hair up, no phone in her hand for the first time in weeks. Sat on the arm of the couch again, same spot as the first offer. Said she'd take the chart down permanently if I'd just tell her what I wanted. Told her nothing on it. She asked what that meant. Said the things on the right-hand column aren't things you can order off a board. She said that's a lovely sentence and asked me to answer the question. Told her I wanted to come home and not be audited. She said she'd never audited me, pointed at the fridge without looking at it, and she said, that's the chore side. Said, I know. We sat there a while, then she said, if I take it down tonight, will you stay the same as you were? Which is a strange way to ask someone to change. Told her I didn't know. She said that's not good enough and went to run a bath. The chart stayed up. She didn't take it down, and I think that's the part that told me everything. Even then, with an exit available, she wanted to keep the ledger. The apartment. The following week, the guy at the shop mentioned his brother's place. Drove over on a rest day. 1 bedroom, 3rd floor, no lift. A kitchen the size of a wardrobe. Radiator that clanks. The landlord asked if it was just me, and I said yes, and he said, good, less noise. Signed there, and then on the bonnet of my truck. Went home, cooked dinner, marked 4 points, and sat across the table from her while she talked about a listing that had fallen through. Listened properly, asked about the buyers, she said they were nightmares. That was a decent hour, genuinely. Then she got up, looked at the fridge on her way past and said, 92. Said, yep. And that's when I stopped feeling bad about the deposit. The last week. Decided it that week, no announcement, no scene, no speech in the doorway. A guy at the shop had a brother with a 1-bedroom coming free across town. Went and looked at it on my day off. Water pressure was bad, and the kitchen was the size of a wardrobe. Took it anyway. Paid the deposit from the account that was only ever mine. Didn't tell her, packed slowly, 1 bag at a time, into the truck, spread over 4 days. Toolbox went first, because it lives in the truck half the time anyway. And I finished the board. Every box, all 7 days, plus the double Tuesday, plus the multiplier, plus the grout. 96 points. Highest week the system ever recorded. She noticed on the Thursday, or at least Thursday was when she said something. Found the closet half empty and stood in the bedroom doorway and asked if I was serious. Told her, yeah. She asked if I was really doing this over a piece of paper. Said you're the one who hung it up. She said she only wanted me to appreciate her. Told her I did, right up until it cost 30 points. She said something after that, which I didn't catch because she said it into her hands. Asked her to repeat it, and she said forget it. We slept in the same bed that night, both facing the wall, which is a stupid detail to remember, but that's the one that stayed. Friday she had a showing at 9, the morning, left while she was out, took nothing that was ours, washed the dishes, cleared the fridge of everything that would turn, carried the bin down to the curb, ran the load of her clothes that had been sitting wet in the machine since the day before, because if I'd left it, it would have gone sour and she'd have blamed me for that. And honestly, she'd have been right to. Hung the wet stuff on the rack by the window. Then the last thing, took the marker off the counter and finished the board. Every box on the left checked. Total at the bottom in big numbers, 96, and underneath. Unspent, expired. Put my keys on top of it, flat on the reward column, right over the sale prices. Pulled the door shut and went down the stairs. And that was the end of it. Afterwards, she texted 2 days later. Not come back. Not, I was wrong. Not even you left the tap running, which I hadn't. The message said, what am I supposed to tell everyone? Read it sitting in the truck outside the new place with a box of plates on my lap. Didn't reply. Still haven't. The woman from her office posted something a few weeks later, a long one, about how modern men can't handle structure and accountability and would rather walk than grow. Heard about it secondhand from a friend of mine whose girlfriend follows her. Never read it, don't intend to. Saw my ex once since, at the hardware place of all things, buying a light fixture. We said hello. She asked how the new apartment was. I said fine. She said good. Whole thing took maybe 40 seconds and neither of us went anywhere near the rest of it. She'd cut her hair. My shift partner asked me about a month in whether I regretted it. Told him no. He said good. And that was the end of the conversation, which is the correct length for that conversation. The new place is small, and the water pressure is still bad, and the radiator makes a noise at 4 in the morning. Dishes get done when I feel like doing them. Sometimes that's straight after dinner, sometimes it's the next morning, and nobody in the building has an opinion about it. There's nothing on my fridge. Keep thinking I should put something up there, a photo, a takeaway menu, anything. Haven't yet. Hers is probably still up. She'd have to peel it off, and there's a magnet under that stove she is never going to find.